Conservative leader Andrew Scheer began a series of pre-election speeches today to outline his vision for Canada. His opening address focused on foreign policy and defence. The CBC's Katie Simpson was in Montreal for that speech, and she joins me in studio. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Okay, what did Mr. Scheer have to say?
Andrew Scheer presented his vision. It's not necessarily a specific, detailed policy plank, but it's an overall vision where if he becomes the Prime Minister of Canada, here are some of the things he would like to see take place. And he made a number of points that he's made in the past. He said, a Conservative government would stand up to China, that there needs to be a complete reset in the relationship, and that there can't be a deepening of the ties, as we've seen Justin Trudeau and his government try to do since Justin Trudeau was elected back in 2015. There were some other policy announcements as well that actually he made as he was leaving the venue. He announced that a Conservative government would move the embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. He's talked about recognizing the capital, but he hadn't actually said before that that is something that he would do. He made that announcement. He also accused the Prime Minister very bluntly of being weak on China, of being weak on Russia, and accepting a worse deal on NAFTA. Liberals have been very loud to point out that while the Conservatives have been incredibly critical of NAFTA and saying that they would have done things differently, they're waiting for some specifics from the Conservatives on that. But Scheer did offer up some some specifics on how he would rebuild the relationship with the Americans. And one way he would work at doing that is to join a ballistic missile program, working with Washington on that. But Andrew Scheer was very clear to attack the Prime Minister when he was making these points to a business foreign policy luncheon in Montreal.
Being a good ally and contributor on the world stage requires more than just talk. Both our allies and adversaries respect strength and confidence. We have seen serious mistakes over and over again from this government, and they are almost always attributable to Mr. Trudeau's poor judgment.
So this is part of a larger narrative that the Conservatives are going to try to build over the election, that Justin Trudeau is personally responsible for a number of failed policies with the Liberals, and they're going to try to make the argument that Andrew Scheer is the one that can sort of clean up a mess. And we're going to be hearing that sort of same narrative, same argument over a series of policy speeches that he'll make this spring.
And what about the Liberals? How are they defending themselves
against
those claims?
A number of different Liberals have been asked questions in different sort of parts of the world. Chrystia Freeland's on her way to Ukraine and took a phone call from reporters today. And she was you'll be shocked to hear this, she very much disagreed with the argument that Andrew Scheer was making, saying that as someone who's, been Canada's representative on the world stage, that the Prime Minister's personal brand and his reputation is a help, not a hindrance, when trying to deal in international diplomacy. We've heard from Pablo Rodriguez, who's the Heritage Minister. He was speaking about this today, trying to deflect, saying the Conservatives, if they are elected, it'll be the same old foreign policy of the previous Harper government, and that's something that he says that Canadians don't want. So it's a lot of the back and forth rhetoric. It's super election-y.
All right, super election-y. Speaking of, thank you, Katie, the CBC's Katie Simpson. Let's get some reaction from the Power Panel with Stockwell, Tiffany, and Francois. Stock, I'll start with you. What do you think of the speech itself?
I think good and important, and the timing is important also. It's the first of 5 of these vision speeches that the Leader of the Opposition is going to bring forward. It really marks out some clear differences. For instance, when you talk about the Arctic and his focus there, this is something that the previous Conservative government focused on that the Liberals have not, and yet here just yesterday at the Arctic Council meeting of 8 nations, we hear the Americans talking about the fact that China is going to increasingly be in our Arctic, trying to insinuate itself there. We see Russia saying, look, why don't we just make the Arctic part of of China's maritime Silk Road? And then we see Mr.
To be
Pompeo
fair, the Liberals denounced that too, though they said that wasn't true.
Yeah, they did. And then you see Pompeo from the States saying, almost wondering why Canada's getting all fussed about this. And Mr. Scheer is quite rightly saying the presence that was started and ramped up increasingly with the previous Conservative government, we've got to look at things like our submarine presence. We just have to pay more attention there. And then when he takes a different look at the China problems, I think he is correct. We meet with business people every day who say virtually nothing is being done related to the canola problem, one industry after another being hit by China. Where are our ministers?
Do you think the solution is to claw back involvement with China, though? Do you think that, he's essentially arguing for, I mean, he says, pull funding from the infrastructure bank, launch a formal complaint at the WTO, and then more generally speaking, more restraints on investments by Chinese state-owned enterprises.
Yeah, I think it's a key point, and he has put balanced statements there. He's saying on the areas where we can work and we can advance trade and we can do things with China, let's do it. But we've got to be more robust, more vigorous in terms of the things we're concerned about that we don't like. Also, his statement that Katie alluded to relative to moving the capital or moving our embassy to Jerusalem, that's just not a small thing. And President Trump proved that, in fact, thermonuclear war does not result when somebody says they're going to follow through on the Canadian policy of where the embassy is going to be. So there's some clear lines of demarcation. Mainly what we're seeing here is the Leader of the Opposition saying, here are some things they're going to do to address this. And he believes, and I think with some merit, that he's speaking into a vacuum on the Liberal side because we just don't see clear steps of action on many of these key points.
Françoise?
Well, the one thing I will remember is that the concept of Andrew Scheer today was to say we have people who say Canada should be the referee of all the things going internationally. And he had written in his speech, I heard through the grapevines, but I want Canada to be the quarterback of foreign policy. And then he changed it verbally. So he already moved backward on his speech by saying, I want Canada to be part of the front line. So for me, what does it say? It might not say much to most people, but it tells me that it's words. And words, you need to see something consequential. You need to see some real policy. So for now, I like what you said, Stock, but I'll see what type of proposal they'll have during their campaign, because it's as if they hit all over the map. And I think that's the problem often in our foreign policy, is that we want to solve everything and we do nothing.
I think that's their criticism of the Liberals, right? Tiffany, what do you think? Final word to you.
Well, I thought it was interesting that he ended his speech with, we must be honest with ourselves about the threats that we face, and I think that that's a true statement. And was interested that throughout his speech in all of the areas that he's looking to sound more serious and sort of contrast himself with a narrative around the Prime Minister about being more serious about foreign policy. But seriousness about foreign policy also means being ready to take leadership on the issues that foreign leaders together are trying to tackle, and climate change is very much at the top of that. And so I think it's a space where if he's going to talk about trying to enter this arena and beefing up his foreign policy credentials, and one speech won't be able to do that. We all saw how enthusiastically he was backing Brexit at the most unpopular moments. I think he has a lot of work to do to reset, I think even in Canadians' minds, what his leadership style is going to be on an international stage, and sort of start to that, but not necessarily speaking to the issues that international communities are trying to work on right now.
All right, I have to leave it there, but thank you so much to the Power Panel today. Thanks to Stockwell Day, Tiffany Gooch, and Françoise Boivin. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video. Thanks for watching.